Some startups go up, others go down. Welcome to GeekWire's Elevator Pitch, where 3 entrepreneurs pitch their businesses in the 48 seconds it takes to get to the top of Seattle's first skyscraper, the Smith Tower. Over the course of 9 episodes, we'll narrow the field from 27 entrepreneurs to 1 winner. In this episode of Elevator Pitch, presented by Smartsheet, we'll hear from 3 startup founders as they pitch their emerging businesses to our panel of leading investors and entrepreneurs. T.A. McCann, a serial software entrepreneur, professional sailor, and managing director at Pioneer Square Labs. He sold his last company to Google and counts Rival IQ and more than a half dozen other startups to his name. Jennifer Ceran, Smartsheet CFO and Stockpile Inc. investor, who has banked executive experience at companies including Box, Quotient, and eBay. Heather Redman, power broker and former Getty Images executive, who cuts deals as the managing director of venture capital firm Flying Fish Partners. The clock is ticking. Jump on board and ride with us on the elevator pitch and find out which entrepreneur has what it takes to make it to the top.
I'm Cassie Wallender, Chief Product Officer and co-founder at Invio.
Welcome to Smith Tower.
Clinical trials are critical for bringing new medicines to patients. However, necessary data quality monitoring is labor and travel intensive. This causes delays, mistakes, and wastes $13 billion. Invio helps research organizations to do remote monitoring and to use AI to automate common workflows. Invio cuts 15% off timelines and saves half of data monitoring costs. We're already in use at top-tier institutions like Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. For Invio, this is a $5.6 billion revenue opportunity and a way to improve healthcare options for all.
So who's the economic buyer of your software?
In clinical trials, there's a relationship between the people running the trials, which are usually pharmaceuticals or medical device manufacturers, and the sites that are actually running the studies. However, there's a third party called contract research organizations that are often outsourced to run all the clinical operations of the study. So we're primarily targeting those CROs that 70% of clinical trials are outsourced to, with the industry sponsors as a secondary market.
So what is the value you deliver in this process?
A lot of the value for sponsors really comes in speed. If we can cut down the time of a clinical trial by 2 or 3 months, that's 2 or 3 months more of their patent lifetime that they get to have on the market. In addition, we bring the costs down, but the data quality up. Human beings are really not very good at detecting fraudulent patterns in data or correcting large amounts of data, and we take the human error out of the process.
Are you one of those sort of Intel Inside must-have components to somebody's bid for a clinical trial?
That's exactly one of the reasons we like to work with CROs, because they work with many different sponsors across many different clinical trials. So our first CRO customer initially tried us for 1 study, and after the study was complete, the sponsor said, "This was fantastic, we want it on the next phase of the study." And the CRO said, "This was so helpful for us, helped us win the bid on this project and help us complete the study faster and on time. We want to include you on all our future proposals to other sponsors."
And would they be passing through the cost of you? Would you be sort of like, oh, and as an option, you can have this Invio module, which is state of the art, and we're going to charge you, Invio prices plus 50%? Or would they be using it to drive down their own internal costs so that they'd be more competitive on the RFP?
We found most people do land somewhere with a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So our current CRO partner was able to use it to drive down costs and win the project, but they also were able to take a little more margin than they could have by themselves alone.
And what's the revenue model? Is it based on each trial, or is it a reoccurring subscription or something else?
I'm so glad you asked. So my background's in life science SaaS, and this is exactly that, a life science SaaS play. We charge a monthly license fee that's based on the number of studies and the number of sites within the study. So we scale very nicely to support a smaller startup like a biotech and help them get to the next phase and the next round of funding. But we can also support a clinical trial that's at 100 or 200 different hospitals, and we just charge them that many licenses per month.
What's the order of magnitude? So take a small study, how much revenue do you charge? How long does that normally go? So what would be the average contract value for a study like that for you?
An average phase 2 study is 25.7 months long and at about 12 to 15 sites, and so that puts us at about $110,000.
So how much revenue are you generating roughly right now?
Well, we're only just begun commercialization. We finished the Techstars Healthcare Accelerator at the end of last year. We're just starting out with our first couple customers. We're taking in about 8K of monthly RR, but we hope to be increasing that shortly.
Well, great mission, focused. I worry about the market size. I worry about the rapidity of adoption, and they've been at it for a while, and they're just now getting to revenue. And I think their pricing model may be a little weak. I mean, what it was, 120K, she said, for the entire study that's 28 weeks or 28 months long, and is going to basically create this billion-dollar drug. You know, we ought to be able to charge more for that if they're really cutting 50% of the cost and improving quality control.
I think there's some value here in terms of time to market. I know when you have a drug, something you're investigating, exploring, you know, one of the things you want to do as a business person and as someone who cares about others and helping to heal them is to get something out more quickly. And if you could do that, I think that there's some value there to the person who would subscribe to it.
Yeah, she said 15% time reduction, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is material for a drug.
I mean, I like the fact that they're focused on CROs. You sell to one and they're going to keep reselling you once you get into that workflow. It's not likely to be unplugged from that workflow unless a competitive solution comes along, and you're likely to know about that well in advance of it. The opportunity to be the data layer throughout that and expand on value across the data layer is really powerful. And I think there'll probably be also other ways to monetize. For example, we need to archive all the data and you need to pay for that, or we need to do some more machine learning on the data.